What I see most of the time is like brands treating their best customers like strangers. They're pouring money into acquisition while their email list sits there getting the same generic flows as everyone else. Your top 10% of customers by spend should have completely different experience. If you are watching this, chances are you've hit a wall. Revenue has flatlined. What worked last year isn't working now, and you're wondering if you've maxed out your brand. Here's the thing most people won't tell you. Plateaus are actually normal. Like the outliers you see on Twitter raising 50 million and 10xing their business year over year, those are exceptions, not the rule. I want to make that clear. Most brands hit ceilings. It's very natural. The ones that break through do it by pulling the right levers at the right time. I run Kinship, performance marketing agency, e-commerce growth agency, however you want to say it. We are responsible for your growth, and we work with brands from 2 to 100 million in revenue. And I've seen the same patterns over and over. And what actually moves the needle versus what everyone thinks moves the needle is very different things. So today I want to give you 10 ways to break through a growth plateau. Not theory, not fluff, actual strategies that are working right now. Without further ado, let's just get into it. Number one, fix your unit economics. Before you do anything else, before you test a new channel, launch a new product, you just need to know your numbers cold. And I mean, actually know them. I think most brands I talk to have their cost of goods wrong. They know what they pay for the product, but they're missing landed costs, the shipping from manufacturer to warehouse, duties, packaging, all of it. I've seen brands be off by 5 to 10 percentage point on their actual true like cost of delivery. That right there alone is a difference between an actual scaling profitable brand opportunity and lighting money on fire. Like literally that difference. What you need to know is like your cost of delivery as a percentage of revenue, product COGS, merchant fees, returns, shipping and fulfillment, duties, taxes, fees. A strong number obviously is, I mean, super good is 30% or below. 35 to 40%. If you're at 50%, like you have a fundamental business problem, I would say. Again, maybe. That in isolation doesn't obviously tell the whole story, but just if we're just looking at this in isolation, although I wouldn't advise that in isolation, I would strongly advise getting that number down. You need to understand, like, are you first order contribution margin positive business? You have to be, or are you a repeat rate business based on the model, based on the auction dynamics? So if you sell hoodies and your average customer buys once every 18 months, you need to be first order contribution margin positive. You need to make money on that first order. But if you sell consumables, obviously like with 40% repeat rates within 90 days, you can afford to go into the negative, and you should. Because you know that LTV is coming, and that is the most predictable part of your business. So this ties into number 2, using retention as a growth lever. I think everyone talks about retention like it's about just saving money. Like, oh, it's cheaper to keep a customer than acquire a new one. Yeah, like we've all heard that. But that framing actually undersells what retention actually is. It's a growth lever. Like a 5% increase in retention can actually drive anywhere from 20 to 100% increase in profit. Like that's not a typo. The math actually compounds in ways that acquisition can't. Your LTV to CAC ratio, people like to use that. But if you're spending $50 to acquire a customer, that customer should be worth at least $150 over their lifetime. If you're below that, you're running on a different business model. Going out, point number 1. But what I see most of the time is like brands treating ultimately their best customers like strangers. They're pouring money into acquisition while their email list kind of sits there getting the same generic flows as everyone else. Your top 10% of customers by spend should have completely different experience. VIP early access, exclusive products, actual human outreach, not just like a loyalty program that gives them 5% off. I think customer experience, it's not a cost center, it's actually a conversion tool. When someone has a problem and you solve it fast without making them fight through a chatbot, like that's retention. That person tells their friends, that person has a great experience. I think retention as a growth lever, that customer experience as a growth lever. Number 3, paid versus organic. Grow in your weak area. A pattern I see constantly are brands are lopsided. So they're 90% paid, usually 10% organic, or they built their whole business on organic Instagram growth and now they can't figure out how to scale with paid. I see those less and less. But if that's you, the unlock isn't doubling down on what's already working. It's actually growing in your weak area. So if you've built a $10 million business, let's say on paid media, you've probably maxed out the efficiency you can get from that channel currently. You're hitting diminishing returns. Now you're hitting the echelon of like, oh, I'm not getting the same ROAS as I got to 10 million. which natural, by the way. But now every new dollar is harder. So this is where like, but what about organic? That's untapped. That's going to be your untapped area. So building a genuine social presence, investing in influencer seeding, doing the things like getting your product out into the wild. These channels like word of mouth have infinite ceilings. Like they make your paid dollars work much more efficient and smarter, not just harder, because people already know about you before they see your ad. So the reverse is true too. If you've grown organically, you're leaving money on the table by not amplifying what's already working. So this is probably a small percentage of you, but paid media is not evil. You've built organic audience. Maybe you've built like this amazing community. Maybe you're an influencer and you have this audience that you can tap into. One, you are actually more of an advantage than someone that's built to the $10 million business on 90% paid. But you are leaving money on the table because your business is really volatile. That influencer, all those influencers that are posting about you today could post about a different brand tomorrow because a competitor actually swept them up and won them over. So think about it in a way, if you're organic heavy and you're trying to get paid going, it's a way to take proven content, so to speak, and put it in front of more people who look like your best customers. And you already have a ton of signal in the auction dynamics already. One of the things that you can be doing is just auditing your split. Like, where's your revenue actually coming from, paid versus organic, and then start trying to invest and grow in the weak area. Number 4, promotional moments. I think most brands under, let's say, 30 million are terrified of running sales. It's funny. Most mature brands are actually like, they're not scared of those promotional moments, but the ones that are like, oh, I don't want to be a discount brand. You're thinking it's going to cheapen your brand or train customers to wait for discounts. The reality is like value shoppers are a massive market. Like, you know who the biggest retailer in America is? It's Walmart. People love deals. Like, it's not a character flaw. It's actually human nature. What you want to do this methodically, like a well-executed promotional moment calendar. Don't create demand. They actually just capture demand that you've already created through your ads and content. And someone who's been following you for 3 months, seen your product 10 times, and is waiting for a reason to pull the trigger, that person is there. Like, and a good sale gives them permission to actually buy your product. It's a key, well executed. That means like you're planning in advance, you're not reactive, but you're built with proper inventory, communicate with more urgency and clarity. And again, ultimately it's measured on profit, not just like revenue. If you're scared of discounts, start small. Friends and family sales, your high LTV customers, flash sales to your email list only, like limited time bundles, drops, etc. You can test this before you go all in. Number 5, obviously new product development. I mean, this is like, when I say obviously, I should probably not say that because this is automatically just in your head. It's uncomfortable, and most people aren't doing this because it's long and it requires real investment, but it's one of the best ways that you can break through a plateau. Sean, a good friend over at Ridge, there's no way that he'd be getting to these points without product development, tying into these other points that I've already mentioned with little to no LTV. So he has to launch new product developments, tangential categories, and he makes modeled bets. New products do 3 things for you. First, they open new customer segments. Second, they give you existing customers a reason to come back and buy. And if you don't have strong LTV, this is the best reason. And then third, they give you fresh creative, right? So it's like you can launch new creative for this new product development. You have to. You can only run so many angles on, your current brand or your hero, right? I think this is the constraint that most brands run into, which is like inventory and replenishment. You're always out of stock on your best sellers. You're not ready to add more SKUs. So obviously, like, there's the supply chain element that you need to think about from a perspective of, you got to build those relationships with manufacturers who can move faster. But I've seen brands that have sat in a product vacuum for 3 years, basically doing the same SKUs over and over again, and then they're wondering why their growth has been stalling. This is where you can start thinking methodically about what are the new products and or channels that I can be thinking about that. So you can start testing this. Number 6, influencer and in real life. Obviously, like the whole like pay for post model, if you've been following me, like I've been saying, that is dead since 2020. Just paying an influencer like for one Instagram post is just not how to work with influencers. What's always worked and what always will continue to work is long-term relationships, building relationships the right way. And so that's where product seeding comes in. That's where getting the product into people's hands. But also, I think the unlock most brands are missing is combining influencer relationships with in real life events. Like, invite them to your brand events, sponsor their events, bring them to trade shows, do dinners in their city. And that content that comes from like real experiences together, especially in an AI world, I think is going to be way more convincing and compelling in the way that you actually start working with influencers. It takes a lot of upfront methodical ways of thinking about how to do this strategically. I'm not saying like just go do this every single month. Same with your customers. Who are your best influencers? And just go deeper with them. Invest in them. Bring them into your marketing meetings. These are ways that you can actually distinguish yourself in 2026. Number 7, new demand gen channels. I want to be clear here. I think for brands that are sub $100 million in revenue, so vast majority of you that are listening, the big asterisk on number 7, new demand gen channels, is that we have brands that have scaled on Meta alone to 50 million. And I strongly believe that you can grow on the basics. When I say the basics, I mean like Meta, Google. Even before adding TikTok, I would get those fully into optimization. But if you're stuck, you can be over-indexed on one platform. Get great at Meta before you diversify. Again, that's like the first caveat that I would make. If you can't make Meta work, adding AppLovin or YouTube isn't going to save you. I guarantee you that. That said, the AppLovins, the TikToks, the TV, these other strategic channels that you can add in 2026, I think are ways that we can measure this. YouTube, I think, would be one that I would definitely be thinking through. It requires proper measurement, holdout tests, geo tests, but I think the opportunity is real. And I think YouTube is legitimately great. And also, this kind of, when I think about channel, the basics, getting to 50, 100 million, Meta, Google, I would also, you need to add Amazon. For a small percentage of you, that doesn't make sense, but I think continually Amazon is expanding into all categories that like you would want to be on there, at least from a brand defense perspective. That's where I would say the key with any new channel is incremental measurement. Not just like did it report conversions, but is the total new business opportunity growing proportionally to the spend? Like, is this channel adding and causing the sale? So if you can't prove the incrementality of those things, you're probably just kind of shuffling attribution around. So I would just say you need to be thinking about this very, very strategically. This is like lower on the list because I think a lot of brands actually make this mistake. But you want to be generating as much demand as possible and being everywhere to capture that demand. I think the smartest brands are doing that. 8, the creative machine and media buying. I think most brands are treating creative like a one-time project. They're doing the big photo shoot twice a year, but everyone's now talking about creative volume, but then you also have people that are talking about very limited creative. I have obviously thoughts on that. You need to have a creative machine. Like you need to have pipelines, influencer content, customer content, UGC, behind the scenes, founder stories, product demos. You need volume. That's just how the machine learning systems are going. And you need to give as many optionalities as possible. And then on the media buying side, I think a lot of talk and noise around this is all going to be automated. Like, what do you even guys do? I have a podcast episode about that. But you need to have a strategic brain that understands the mechanics, not just someone who knows how to press buttons in Ads Manager, because that in a silo, yes, is becoming easier and easier. The real unlock is like building a system that runs without you. Document your creative process, train your team, agencies, create feedback loops. The goal is a machine, well-oiled machine, not a heroic effort or not being over-indexed into one particular person or agency, etc. Number 9, retail and wholesale expansion. Here's a number that I think would reframe how you think about growth. 80% of e-commerce is brick and mortar, and e-commerce is still only literally 18 to 20% of total retail. So we're not in a fully digital world. We're very much hybrid. So for certain brands, retail and wholesale expansion isn't just an option. It's probably the obvious move. Like, and especially if you have products that are just heavy or bulk, tough unit economics on D2C, you probably already are in this. But even low AOV products where the shipping costs is just a significant percentage of the order. Think like obviously beverage, but also if you have something where you want to like smell it, test it, like a deodorant, that's an obvious one. And then Amazon, I already touched on this, but like, 50% of US e-commerce all goes through Amazon. 6 out of 10 ads people are checking to see if it also is on Amazon. I think if you're just a purist who refuses to sell there, you're just leaving a channel that you can capture demand. This is why we take that into our forecast and into, 99% of our brands are also on Amazon. You have to meet customers where they are, and there's no question that's where they are. You can start small. You can test with a few retailers, obviously, but obviously the retail present will lift your D2C business too. Because people discover you in Target or Walmart, and then they go home and subscribe on your website, and that's just the reality. And finally, number 10, you need to audit your customer journey. It sounds basic, but almost nobody does it well. Like, systematically audit your customer journey from ad to checkout to post-purchase. And when I say post-purchase, like unboxing experience, the whole 9 yards. I think the biggest wins are always closest to the transaction. Like, test your pricing, test your offers, test your shipping thresholds. These have direct conversion and impact on conversion. They test CRO, but then they don't test it very long, or they end the test too early. Most importantly, you need to measure the profit, not just like the conversion rate. A test might lift conversion 15%, but tank your AOV because everyone's adding the cheapest item. And I won't go down that tangent of CRO agencies, but if you're not looking at contribution margin per visitor, you're actually optimizing for the wrong thing. So you want to do this exercise, buy your own product as if you're a new customer, go through every step, click the ads, land on the page, add to cart, check out, get the emails. Where is it clunky? Like, where do you get confused? Where are you like, wait, we waited 3 days to get the welcome email? Like, the friction that you feel is the friction that your customers feel. And then have your friends do it. Like, just have because sometimes you can be in your own, echo chamber. So those are the 10 ways to break through a growth plateau. So number 1, fix your unit economics. Number 2, use retention as a growth lever. Number 3, grow in your weak area, paid versus organic. 4, run smart promotional moments. 5, develop new products. 6, go deep on influencer and in real life. 7, test new demand gen channels, but with proper incrementality. I'm going to say that again. 8, build a creative machine that runs itself. Number 9, explore retail and wholesale. And then number 10, systematically audit and optimize your customer journey. No agency can fix a fundamentally broken business. I tell people all that time on the sales cycle. We are not a magic bullet. So if you're unit economics, and part of the reason why you do a full business audit before we take you on as a client is we just want to see the gaps. We want to see the weaknesses because every brand has that. But if your product doesn't resonate, if you don't have product market fit, marketing is not going to save you. Ultimately, the CEO, you are responsible for growth, not even us that call ourselves the e-commerce growth agency. We're responsible for your new customer acquisition growth, and we want to be responsible for that. But you are the ones that do the negotiations with your manufacturer, etc. A lot of things that impact growth way more than an agency can do. So if your foundation is solid, but you're just stuck, these levers work. And I've seen them work over and over again. And if you need any help implementing any of this, of course, reach out to me wherever you may find me on all channels. Kinship.co is our website. As always, thanks for watching, and drop any questions in the comments. I reply to every single one, and I will see you in the next one.